Now we want to talk about that catastrophic earthquake that struck Turkey and Syria. More than 2,000 people are now dead, and that's according to Turkish and Syrian emergency officials. Hundreds of people still trapped as the president there in Turkey is calling it the country's largest disaster in more than 80 years. The massive 7.8 earthquake hitting southeast Turkey overnight near the Syrian border. A second quake hit southern Turkey 9 hours later, also measuring as a massive 7.8. Thousands of buildings collapsed in both countries, and now the search is on to find any survivors that are trapped in the rubble there. Joining me now live from London, ABC's Patrick Reevell. So, Patrick, what is the latest? Are search crews been able to find any survivors?
Hi, Kira. Yeah, I mean, the scale of the damage is just colossal, and the clearer the picture is that we're seeing, the more the scale of the destruction is really emerging. I mean, the official death toll right now is over 2,300, with over 9,700 people injured, but that's expected to rise possibly steeply as well, because right now rescue workers are trying frantically to reach what is believed to be hundreds of people buried under the rubble across the country. I mean, hundreds, possibly thousands of buildings are believed to have collapsed. President Erdogan of Turkey is saying this is the biggest disaster to strike his country since 1939, when another earthquake caused 30,000 people to be killed. And so you can see the scale of the disaster here is really enormous. I mean, countries are mobilizing right now to try and send aid, and particularly the situation is particularly dire in Syria, where there was already a humanitarian crisis and which now has been struck by this historic earthquake, really. This is one of the most powerful earthquakes to strike this region ever, experts are saying.
Yeah, we were reporting 80 years, and just looking at how Turkish and Syrian first responders have been handling just the overwhelmed or the overwhelming amount of people trapped, killed. I can't imagine what the hospitals are like. Are they struggling just to be able to treat people?
Yeah, both in Turkey and in Syria, rescue workers are under enormous strain, but the situation is particularly bad in Syria because of the fact that most of the area where this earthquake took place was closest to northern Syria, which is a rebel-held area and which has effectively been under siege by the Syrian regime, backed by Russia for the last several years. And so there was already a very severe humanitarian crisis there. 4.1 million people live there, and the UN says that the majority of them were already in need of humanitarian support. And now, of course, they've been struck by this enormous earthquake. I mean, we're seeing towns where whole streets have collapsed, whole high-rises with, you know, dozens of apartments in them have just collapsed into the ground. And we know there are hundreds of people buried under that rubble. The white helmets that you probably remember are better known in Syria for pulling people from the rubble after bomb attacks, after airstrikes. They are in action, and they are telling the media that they are completely overwhelmed and that hospitals in that part of Syria are completely overwhelmed.